Hello, meditation friends. Hello there, Sarah. Welcome to another Afternoon Idle. I'm your host. My name is Andrew. I'm a mindfulness meditation coach certified through Unified Mindfulness. You can find out more about unifiedmindfulness.com. I'm many things, but what I am not is a licensed therapist or mental health professional. So this week we've been playing around with a particular category. Unified Mindfulness has a way of abstracting how we meet sensory experience, and that's through these three categories: see, hear, and feel. And so this week we've been playing around with see as one of our categories. And then in the spirit of working with wherever you are at or what's going on in your world, we have roof replacement going on. And through the magic of the universe, it appears that that 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 Mountain is when the roofing crew takes a break. So hopefully we won't have too much thumping and hammering and various other things. But if we do, it's an opportunity for us to be able to kind of allow that to be in the background, not make a big deal out of it. And there's sort of Jeff Warren likes to say that sort of hold no grudge against what may seem like intruding sensory experience. So the C category includes both our external vision and mental image. And what we'll look at today is looking at the mental image side of that, and then about halfway through allowing into our focus range mental talk. So that would be the hear-in element. So we'll start in mental image. There will be a likelihood that there's nothing going on in mental image. And if that's the case, if we have no activation in that category, we can just label that and notice it as rest. So we would notice, and then label that rest. So that's kind of where we're headed. So it's a little bit of like priming up the see inside and then expanding to allow both mental image and mental talk. And then we'll shift into the do nothing part of our sits. So if you're new, in the extreme likelihood that you're new, I noticed that I doubled the subscribers in, I think, the last week, that we're doing contrast sits, or I'm pitting sort of one active technique with this sort of open monitoring or choiceless awareness style of sitting, which we refer to as do nothing. And that's a name for the technique that Shinzen Young came out, and one that resonates quite much with Jeff Warren, so much so that he named the Do Nothing Project after that. So the something side is usually a technique that comes out of the Unified Mindfulness system. So if you're totally new to meditation altogether, I'll do my best to kind of allow you to ease into that aspect. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And then I did get the live streams. I did get the live streams up for the rest of the week, so hopefully that makes things a little easier. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's all. So, yeah, I think that's it. So if you have any questions before we begin, you can always post those in chat, and I'll do my best to respond to those. If you have reports afterwards, really nice reports around how they're skillfully responding to that. The way that they're showing up at that time is one that's not always supported. Showing the skill as a meditator to be able to shift into practice that helps them to be a little more supportive. So it's always super awesome, especially my perspective as a coach, to see that, because it shows the folks that are joining in are one, empowered, and two, they're sort of getting that they have the ability to shift the practice to support them. So awesome. All right, Angie, good to know. So I think we'll go ahead and begin. And then You're always welcome to do another practice. As I was noting, folks are giving it a shot and then seeing if there's a need to change. So you're always welcome to do a practice or go to practice working with a home base, whatever is best. So we'll begin. If possible, I invite you to adopt a posture that helps you be both relaxed and alert, the basic meditative state. You can think of that as one that is upright and dignified. The spine is long if possible. And then just for some cues on feeling where the body's at, ideally the shoulders are over the hips, the nose is aligned with the navel, the ears are aligned with the shoulders, tipping the jaw towards the chest, chest and sternum, if that feels comfortable. Each of us holds tension in different places. So as we begin, just checking in, see if there's any tension held or if there's any bracing. Often when we notice the tension, there's a subsiding or a release. So I check in with the areas around my eyes or the forehead, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders. I'm just seeing if being aware allows me to get a little bit of a release. And if not, it's the first chance for me to bring this attitude of no big deal and allowing and welcoming that. You may find tension in your hand, maybe even the hips or the hip flexors. And then just a few deliberate breaths in through the nose, elongating and accentuating exhale out through the nose. So slow and low is the tempo that we're aiming for. Breathing in slow through the nose allows us to breathe low into the lungs. And then shifting to our technique, we'll begin with C. Area. C in mental image. If there's any mental image, then noting, allowing your attention to soak in, and optionally labeling C. Or if there's no activity, which is the case for me right now, I notice that. Pause for a moment here, and then soaking into that, I label it rest. So explore C in for a bit. So, as we narrow our range of what we're focusing on, in doing that, there is a trade off, and that means there is more of sensory experience that can draw our attention away. So, if that's happening and it's starting to generate a little bit of frustration, just know that's possible. So, we'll expand our focus range a little bit to include mental talk. And just like mental image, we may not have any mental talk. There may be no activation. We would notice that and label it rest. We may have both see in and hear in at the same time. You can always pick one or label that both. So explore this wider range of see here. Good. So we'll let go of that technique and we'll shift into our do nothing practice. Using no way as way, having no technique as technique. Do nothing. So as you shift into this stance of allowing whatever happens to happen, you may notice that your attention sort of spontaneously decides to focus on your home base, or to follow the breath, or sort of pick up a technique that you normally are using. And that's totally fine. If you want, though, you can try dropping that and seeing if it resumes. There's a good chance it'll come back. So you can kind of think of it as the body is meditating you, if that's not too trippy. So keep going. I invite you to begin to move slowly and reconnect with your surroundings. Thank you for spending 20 plus minutes with me today and with everyone else, with all the other meditation friends. Again, if you have any reports, you can put those in chat. If you have questions, I'll do my best to respond to them. And thank you again for joining up today or watching after the fact. So it's the 15th. I should begin to point out that there's a group of meditation guides that went through Jeff Warren's How to Guide Meditation class earlier this year. Say that was April and May, and I was lucky enough to be sort of Jeff's tech support person and sort of teaching assistant, I guess, for that class. So that group is doing another meditation mini retreat called Hit the Pause Button, and that is on Sunday, December 20th. And if you are interested in finding out more, I'll be posting more info. It's a somewhat small gathering. It's not so you can contact me through Instagram. My handle is Leonards. That's Lenard, as in David, S as in Sam. I think I have it set up so that anyone can send me messages. So if you're curious about that, go ahead and message me. And then I will be posting more information as we get a little bit closer. But that's this Sunday. I want to say that it's 11 Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern. So. Oh yeah, so interesting, Sarah. So you never tried CN before. That's yeah. So when we focused, and I tried to offer a little bit of that prompt, when we get really narrow, then we now are in a situation where we're in essence kind of taxing our concentration power. So whenever we're meditating in a mindfulness technique, we're using the three skills: concentration, clarity, and equanimity, or CCNE. And so when we go to CN, that sometimes ramps up here in. And so that's why I was thinking about this idea of allowing that to then be in range, so you can go ahead and focus on that. There's a technique called auto think, which is beyond the scope of our discussion, but the warm up for auto think to begin that wider practice is to begin focusing on sort of mental states as a whole. So see in and hear in. And so I've been thinking about playing around with that warm up practice as one of our something pieces, maybe early January. If you're curious about that, there's a 10-minute version of the warm up for auto think that you can find on my website, which is just leonards.us. And it's on the front page right now, although I'm in the middle of updating that website, so it'll move around eventually, but it'll be in the guided meditation section. So, yeah. So, Angie, there's there not being much there can actually potentially be a benefit. So with there being rest, or so including the rest element, then in essence we can create sort of a C rest. That can have a ripple effect where you start to feel, you have more feel in and hear in activation, which is a bit around what I think Sarah is reporting too. So when we narrow to that and there's not a lot of activation, that can in essence be boring enough that it's difficult for us to bring the concentration power to that. So it's just one of those things to kind of tune and play in with and see if there's much going on there. And then another thing that is a common question that coaches will get is you'll get this kind of, I believe it's, Jeff will refer to it every so often, there's sort of this Ganzfeld or Ganzfeld of sort of a gray screen with sort of color changes or maybe even black and white kind of color changes. And so the question is always, is that C in or is that C out? So I don't think that it would be bad or wrong to include it in your C in because it is some activation, but I believe technically that you're actually sort of that what you're seeing in that Ganzfeld is what's going on in the visual cortex. But I'm not a neuroscientist, and I'm not 100% positive on that, but that's what I think is going on there. So anyway, if anyone had that question or that thought, there's a little bit on that. So thank you so much for sharing. One of the other things I've been playing around with is trying to come up with meditation Mad Libs. So if you know much about Jeff Warren's look at meditation, he talks about some of the techniques that we look at as sort of becoming our own teachers around state changes or changing this. I'm in state A and I want to be in sort of state A prime. What are some techniques to be able to do that? And so I've been thinking about that could in theory be kind of like a category approach that you could fill in almost like a meditation Mad Libs. So that's another thing I'm thinking about playing with in January. So we'll see. We'll see if anything comes about from that. Okay, so we're at the bottom of the hour, and I really again want to thank you for spending some time today, and have an excellent day.